2025 is going to be a year like no other for programming, and if you don't want to get caught out, then keep watching. Howdy peeps, my name is Liam, and I've been working in software for over 12 years, so I know how rapidly things can change in programming, and more specifically web development. I've been caught out with big changes in the landscape before that I wasn't ready for, and I don't want the same to happen to you. So here's my 6 based programming predictions for 2025. Number 1. Pushback on AI-generated code. Recently, Google reported AI systems are responsible for generating more than 25% of code going into their products. People have then become the overseers and reviewers of the code that AI has been generating for these products. I can see pushback coming in a number of ways from a number of directions. The first is potentially a very big problem that could really hurt small businesses: security. As more and more engineers begin to adopt AI tools for keeping up with productivity and increasing efficiency, there's going to be problems with security. Any companies not offering subscription to tools like ChatGPT, GitHub Copilot, Claude, Cursor AI, Bolt, tools that developers want to use, may potentially end up with problems because developers will start to use their own personal access to these tools that they pay for instead of going through company processes and company accounts. This could be a huge exploitation factor for companies where they're not aware of developers introducing generated code into their products and they don't know where it's come from. Not only that, but it's only a matter of time before we see a large data breach in one of these big AI tools, and companies will start pushing back on access to these, seeing these tools as potential security threats. Secondly, I think we'll see pushback from engineers who simply love to code. AI tools are getting really good at small boilerplate tasks and even getting better with like multi-file handling and building out larger app examples. Editors that can work across the project are getting much better as well. But the AI's dystopian future of the human as the PR and code reviewer and AI as the only generator of ideas and code is not going to sit well for a lot of people. A large percentage of the developer community simply loves the process of programming and coding. A lot of people simply won't give it up, especially if they feel like the quality isn't there yet. Thirdly, and I think managers should push back on this one, domain knowledge. I think a paradigm where engineers take more of a backseat in the coding experience could be a potential problem for the long term. Domain knowledge is so important when building software. Developers build it up over time as they build the product, as they build the application, and they know the ins and outs. They know how it works. They know where the bottlenecks are. They know the problems the product has. They know where the optimizations could be made. They know what to do in the event of disaster recovery, and much more. Taking more of a backseat in the coding experience is going to reduce the context and understanding of the applications that we build. Number 2. NeoVim will continue to rise. I know it's been a bit of a fad and a trend this year. We've seen multiple people switching over to NeoVim as their editor. It's a huge meme, but I do believe more and more people will be switching over. This follows on nicely from prediction number 1. I think a lot more people will start migrating to IDEs like NeoVim, where the experience of writing code is streamlined. Engineers who want to be more efficient but without having autocomplete for everything that they write will switch to AI-less code editors, where efficiency comes from speed and accuracy of typing and mastering the basic tools. Some people will opt for honing their skills and perfecting their craftsmanship over handing the reins over to AI. Number 3. AI editors like Cursor and Bolt will fade. We've seen the potential for this already when GitHub revealed the updates for Copilot at GitHub Universe. Microsoft has a massive market share owning VS Code, and they have the resources and integrations to be able to keep VS Code on top of things. Smaller competition had the element of surprise when they first came out, but now they're out in the open. Microsoft can see what features they're developing and what people are migrating over to those editors for and feed them into VS Code. I don't think these editors will die out, and it's always good to see healthy competition in the market, but I do think a big advantage for those AI editors is probably gone. Number 4. Coding interviews will change dramatically. I've done one interview already where the candidate asked if they could use Copilot for the pairing exercise. It kind of took me by surprise, but at this point, should it? Coding and technical interviews are going to have to change. Technical interviews are not great at the best of times, but now the typical front-end, back-end tests that people tend to take are not going to be adequate. There are engineers that are going to be swapping over to an AI-first approach to programming, and there will be engineers that will be even more different still. They'll have picked up AI editing from the get-go, and there will be more and more as time goes on. Interviewers will have to ask themselves questions like, what's a sufficient yardstick to measure engineers against? How do we objectively assess engineers in interviews? Should we deny people the use of AI tools in interviews? Or will AI remove the point of technical interviews altogether? Managers, engineers, and companies will have to revisit what the interviewing process looks like and how they measure the capabilities of engineers. Number 5. Startups and SaaS products will continue to boom. We've seen huge layoffs over the years at the big tech companies of the US. There's been a huge influx of high-quality talent entering the market due to these layoffs, as engineers of all levels have been affected. A lot of these engineers have become disenfranchised with the big tech treatment, seeing that even working at the biggest companies in the world doesn't offer the job security they expected. Some have chosen to create their own startups, join other startups, create SaaS businesses, experiment with AI apps. They're free from the bureaucracy of the big tech companies and free to pursue technology innovations on their own front. Others have joined smaller companies where they can take a position of more responsibility and opportunity. These smaller businesses and startups will benefit from getting access to talent they otherwise would have struggled for recruiting before. And with AI tools being accessible to these same developers and existing staff, they'll be able to be much more effective, efficient, and be able to compete on a technological level to rival the big companies. Number 6. Simplified tech stacks. Tech stack complexity has been a huge problem for years, especially in the JavaScript world. When developers are already struggling with the stacks that they have now, dependencies, and keeping everything up to date, I think we'll see a move to a more simplified stack across the board. Teams will be more careful about what dependencies they pull in and rely on. One of the best attributes any engineering team can have is speed. In a world that's rapidly changing, a team's ability to be able to deliver quickly, pivot, and adapt is vital. Simpler tech stacks make refactoring much easier for those teams as they know what they're handling. I also see more teams and engineers moving over to the likes of Dino and Bun, which promise a more complete build and runtime experience similar to something like Rust. Potentially Void Zero can make an impact, and I'm cautiously optimistic about this one. So that's all my predictions. What can you do to adapt? Simply put, I would say that experimentation is the name of the game. If you're an engineer, I would encourage you to use new tools, see what they offer and how they're different to how you currently work. Build apps and projects with a reduced stack or no stack at all. See what's possible with less. If you're a manager, I would encourage you to look at how you review and assess people for interviews and roles. Don't continue on blind to the fact that programming is changing. Don't leave it up to others to decide which way things will go. Experiment, document, share, create, and reap the benefits from open-mindedness and having a broad set of experiences. If you found this video useful and want to get ahead in 2025, then watch this next video where I break down the great experiences I had with some amazing software developers and how they get ahead of 99% of others.